Right, welcome to everybody here. We've got a tight time frame. I think we've got half an hour for this meeting. We've got one item on it, so we'll get going. Welcome to everybody. We're looking for some apologies. I had none for this meeting, but I've got a few for this afternoon. Linda was going to be late. Well, that's an apology for lateness. Anyone else with some apologies? I'll move. Second, please, that they be accepted. Jeremy, thank you. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Thanks, right. Declarations of interest. We're not hearing anything. Okay, we'll move on to public forum petitions, deputations. Nothing there. Hearing anything. We looked at confirmation of the minutes for the last meeting on the 16th of October. It wasn't that long ago. Everyone had a look over those. Yeah, we've got a second.
I'm happy to second those. Yeah.
I'll just make a couple of comments. We did have our questions in number 7 there. Number 2, number 3 especially, you can see that question's been answered. There is a tomorrow there is a field day in Dipton around that. The potential farm chemical amnesty is still cooking in the building. We just sort of think what that could be. Could be in the new year, we don't know, but it's something that's live. And also general discussion about heading down to Bluff to look at the haul-out facility when the time is appropriate, Lucy, to give it some real impetus around the critical project. So that will be ongoing. So we've had a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Yes, that's carried. That's very good. Notification of extraordinary items, urgent business. Questions. We have a couple of questions. One from Councillor Evans.
Yes.
In Naval, I think I said about the plastic pollution in the paddocks. We've talked about that, me and Lucy. We would like to come back at the next meeting with some advice around that, what could be done. Yeah, and
I think I just mentioned it. Sorry, through
yeah.
that because the terms of reference relate to agricultural education,
yeah,
pollution
prevention.
Yep.
So you could line that up.
Yeah. So through the chair, the work that the catchment integration team does includes those things, and they report through to this committee. So
yeah.
What the chairman and I talked about doing was making sure we've got a robust answer, but we'll bring it back to kind of where to next, so that you've got full visibility of how that rolls out.
And you've got those photos that Paul
yep.
took. They're a good example, and it's. I know what you mean. This has been ongoing in the province for some while. Some time, hasn't it? You do see it.
Looks worse now than it did when I noticed it.
Yeah.
There are not many people that do that, but those that are need to have their wings clipped.
It sticks out like a sore thumb, doesn't it? This time.
Not good.
So no, that's very good. And John had a question too. You had something that was submitted to you that.
Yeah, I just had a phone call yesterday, actually. I think it was yesterday. Just of a guy, a local farmer in New Nickel Woods, and he's farming both in Otago and Southland. And it's just questioning around our effectiveness of using choppers for spraying gorse and broom out of riverbeds. And I guess he was drawing some comparisons between councils about how he's approached with Otago. And I just wanted to have a bit more of a conversation with the catchment team. What our plan is, how often are we doing it? He felt we were not really winning the war on the weed, but still spending the money. So I think maybe a conversation there for some clarity would be quite good.
Would once again, would you like to send an email? Put that in an email. I'll circulate that with the committee and with Lucy, and then a discussion with some experts to talk about that at the next regional services meeting.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Could I add a question?
Yes.
Just in the same, had a conversation around our catchment willow removals. A farmer mentioned to me that in conversations around getting some willows out over there, the crew there, team were taking willows out, but they said they'd been notified by Fish and Game that they were getting questions about removal of willows around for flood protection or flood getting, and they'd been told they had discussions. I was just trying to understand why this is happening when it's part of our job, and
Yeah.
it seems to be they're reaching outside the river, so to speak.
So, through your chair, if you vote, the same applies if you put in writing the question, and then I'll make sure that we get you a written answer so we can put it in the agenda and the minutes from the next meeting.
Cool.
But a more detailed conversation can be factored in with the capital guys if needed.
No, that's fine. We'll do that. I was just saying, is that correct? I'm asking. That has been questioned. That's what I'm asking from Fish and Game. So I will put that and someone can come back.
We can check on the specifics.
Thanks, Jeremy. Paul.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just the same sort of thing. I visited the Waikoi Blackmount Stream. Is it Blackmount Stream? Could you call it? With regards to gorse at this time of the year, there's some key areas that really is becoming an issue at certain times of the year, and that is one of them. It's just a real bad area for gorse, and visually, people driving down the road go, no one's taking care of this, and it is pretty damn bad, really. I've got photos, but it's something I could send an email.
Please do, because when you send that email to us, we circulate with the committee and to Lucy, it becomes less of just a discussion point, but more of an action that we can undertake.
Yeah, and we can, like at the last meeting, I think we read Fred's chair the way that we do it on strategy and policy, so we can keep a track of the questions that get raised and what the responses to them are and what the action from those questions is. We can do that in a summary way.
Absolutely. So it's a standing item, and I'd like to see that. And councillor actions, I think it was in the strategy and policy. Nicole, did you have?
Well, it was just on John's comment, and I think we're practical. We do often use the tractor and the spray unit, but it does, especially in that Tiana region where there's been a reluctance to spray at all if the other parties, Docklands, don't come to the party. We do tend to be exacerbating the problem, and I think the last one about gorse on the berm of a river, again, it's probably a conversation with the landowner, which is likely to be Dock if it's right on the edge of the river. But we're supposed to have a good neighbour policy, so if it's in the system, I think we can perhaps talk to the right people. It may well come up in your meeting this afternoon, because we've had a reluctance to put local money in if it wasn't matched. But the problem, we exacerbate the problem because the seed's going down and getting into other streams.
Thanks, Nicole, for that. So I'll just reaffirm we've got a few questions lining up, and this is the place to have them too. So that comes in from the councillors, the feed into this room, and I'll just confirm that standing item around councillors' actions, and this is a place where that can land. So look, we'll go on to chairman's and councillors' report. I guess we've just had a wee bit of that, but any more reports? Please, anything around the room? Nothing. Okay, let's move on to the reports. Oh, okay. So we've got one report, and that is from, and I'm going to get his name right. I noticed in the reports it's Randall Milne, but I don't think it is. I think it's Randall Beale. I just want to be clear on that.
Good spotting.
Yeah. So, okay. Is Randall, are you up there somewhere in the university? Oh, there we go.
Chair, do you mind if I just do a quick intro and then I'll hand to Randall? Is that
Please
okay?
do.
So just very briefly, committee members, and Randall's online to answer any questions, and Dave's obviously here too. This is the annual report that normally comes to you all through the normal schedule of regional services meetings. It's the Rating District's annual report, so it's looking back over last year. The reason why we've scheduled this extra special shorter meeting to table this item fully is because this is critical for the CLC's conversation this afternoon and what informs their AGMs. So there's a lot of detail in there, and we were hoping that it would give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have of Randall or Dave, and possibly Holly was coming. But that's the purpose of the conversation. So yeah, thank you, Chair. Randall, anything you'd want to add?
No, thank you. Happy to take any.
Questions, team? Morris?
Yes, I've got a few. I sent these through yesterday to Lucy, but you won't have had a chance to have a look at them. I originally took these off the report that we had from yesterday. We didn't talk about it yesterday, so I've got page numbers to refer to, but they're not the same as the page numbers in here. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll just have to go through and find them. The first one is on page 24. And it's about the defect status of the stock banks, and the pie chart, the bottom one, there, I don't quite understand it. It's got the blue is year 1 works, orange is year 2, and grey is year 3, and then there's a orangey yellow one that says all future works. So does that mean works after year 3, or doesn't include those other ones as well?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Chair. That's correct. It's the future works are works that are unallocated to a financial year past year 3 of the LTP.
So that's from year 4 and onwards.
Yep, correct.
All right, thank you.
You good? While you're compiling the next question, can I move to John and move back to you, Morris? John?
Yeah, a couple of questions. First one, I see we've done a flow rate test on Stead Street. Good to see. Have we factored in tidal shutdowns? So over a 24-hour period, what that means in king tides? And I guess I'm going to go back to a question I had earlier around have we got some a generator or something getting looked at for guaranteeing that pumps can operate when there's power outages, i.e. those tidal gates. And can I just flip to the second question now, or do you want me to wait till the response? And the second question is around the rural-urban categorisation of flood banks. Are we, can we possibly get a map at some point that shows us, as you come down the catchment, what's colour-coded to rural and urban? And is there a discussion to be had around, do we need to see some more rural ones flicking into urban? So I guess we had an example locally at Wyndham where possibly mowing it's going to be the best solution. Do those options, do they get quite hard if they're still ticked off as a rural bank? I just want to make sure that you guys in the catchment team have got all the levers you can pull to protect our infrastructure. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the questions, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Chair. The first question was regarding Stead Street flow. We got the data from the hydrology team that did the flow gauging. We had an analysis done, even allowing for the tides when the gates are closed, that the total capacity is still improved under the new pumps based on that flow from hydrology. I'm not sure. I'd have to check if they assessed for king tides or not. So I don't know if that was included, sorry. Second question is, if I share my screen, I can give you a quick answer on the rural versus urban. So we had a workshop where we discussed the priority banks, and basically any bank that provides protection to an urban area should be, well, it's classed as a priority bank under our assessment, and our recommendation is that they should be treated as urban banks. Now, urban banks obviously come with higher costs because they have a higher standard and they have more regular inspections than what rural banks do. And those sections are, if you can see my screen, the banks in red. So this is at the moment we have about 56 kilometres of banks that are classed as urban banks. If we adopt these banks as being treated as urban banks, that will double that to well over 100. So it is the true right of the Aparima from a Tautau up to Raised Bush, a higher section above at Avondale. It is the true left from Winton to Dipton, Dipton West, and Lumsden Bank. All those other ones are currently classed around Invercargill and Mataura, Gore and Wyndham are classed as urban already. So you can see the banks that are currently treated as rural banks are on the Aparima and the Reti.
Okay, thanks, Randall. We've got a few questions lined up, but I would just like to say, if I could, I think that's an excellent question around categorisation of those banks. When someone sees a bank, what makes it urban straight away? Is it that we actually mow it, we allow no stock on it whatsoever because it's high priority? Will there be more urban banks classified around the region? So I think there needs to be a hard line of this is a rural one, this is an urban one, and we can see why it's treated differently. Yeah, so look, we've got a question. We have to go back to Morris, or shall we stay on this?
Yeah, no, deal with this then.
Okay, so Eric and Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Chair, I'm just looking at channel maintenance on page 29, which includes spraying and cleaning. Is that typical? Is it what we're doing every year? We're in a holding pattern. That's about what we should expect each year, or is there some aberration there?
Thank you for the question, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair. And this probably relates to, the willow work as well. There's a lot of the catchment is of the same age. So as the willow trees are, they're 40 odd years old, they do need to be maintained, and they're all sort of coming of age at the same time. So the amount of work that we've got is actually increasing in that space. So I would say it's probably, and on top of that, we're catching more floods now than what we have in the previous 20 years. So I would say that is probably the new normal.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Randall. Jeremy.
Actually, Morris just reminded me, I said on page, as that will be on that page 30, there's no data on the Mataura defects graph. I think we've got no defects, so.
That's a pretty good graph.
That was my next question. So actually, if you read the paragraph below, you'll see it describes what the kinds of defects were. But the question, obviously that needs to be filled, but the question I have is in relation to what we do with landowners who have stock that have damaged the bank, and then we send them a letter and tell them to fix it, and then follow that up. Do we have data on how many letters have been sent out and how successful they've been, and what follow-up there has been? I think that seems to be fairly important. There is reference to this later in the report as well, but that kind of detail is not there, and I wonder if that would be useful.
Thank you for the question, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair. Last year was the first year that 100% of landowners received a defects letter. It is a seriously big undertaking that we haven't been able to resource before, but with Christine joining our team, we were able to do so. I think it's actually a very important part of our work program is letting landowners know when they do have a defect on their bank, for both as an asset manager and for the property owner. The weakness of the traditional system is that we do an annual inspection on those rural banks, so if there's no follow up until 12 months later. So potentially that's causing an elevated risk that we're holding those defects for a 12-month period and aren't getting notified by the landowner when they are addressing them. We're changing the letters this year, but we still hold that inherent weakness that we are unable to resource follow-up work with the landowners that receive the letters until we do the annual inspection.
Very good. We've got a couple of questions lined up for John, Nicol, and back to Jeremy, but I'd also like to say, just mention, Dave, have we got an item this afternoon talking about the bylaw and stock specifically? Is that this afternoon?
Yeah, I'll flick one in.
Yeah, that's correct. So
You'll go through that in detail with us. Okay. Thanks very much. So, Nicol.
Look, and maybe part of it is probably preceding the conversation this afternoon, but we've talked about reviewing the bylaw, and my view is that you might have a specified timeframe for the landowner to fix it. Otherwise, we will do it and they'll get a bill. I think we've got to strengthen that up. It's obviously not working as well as it could do. On the urban bank classification, I guess we've also got to weigh up the cost of the mowing, and but we want all our banks in good condition, I guess, is what we're talking about. The other question I had was totally unrelated, was just that we sold 186 bales of baleage, which in my calculations we got less than $10 for. I'm assuming that that's without the cost of the contractor baling it. But it does seem, I know it's probably poor quality and it was a bad year, but that does seem a very small return. Okay, we got rid of the grass, but I would have thought going forward we might do better than that. Is
That was about the market price, $10 on top of contract.
So it is on top of contract, isn't it? Yeah, that's.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I completely agree with your assessment on the costs of mowing. The position we're in, apart from the urban banks, we're unable to mow the banks as they are currently with the fences and farming infrastructure in the way. But there's no doubt that mowing produces a better grass cover than grazing, and obviously comes with no stock damage. So it comes at a cost, but also comes at a benefit, and potentially lower costs, I think, for those priority banks at least.
Very good. Jeremy and Maurice, but just before if we end that discussion, I think, Dave, you want some really good feedback this afternoon on these specific questions around this bylaw. So if we can promote that during this afternoon's meeting, that would be really good.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we had a question here this afternoon, so I want to firm that up for your consideration and obviously choosing where we are with the draft.
Yep.
So we've got some questions around phrasing, defining the phrasing.
Yep. So if all the committee can help facilitate those discussions to get the most out of it, would be really appreciated. Jeremy, then
just quickly on that, like when I see the work that's been done in the Gore flood banks, taking those poplars out and the banks, they look, I was always worried that the holes, and it actually looks really, really good. It's all grown back, grass it's well maintained. Actually look past it, it's a good job done, So I think farmers need to just front up a bit, and they need to look after things as well. I don't think it'd be a problem. Just in regards, I was just going to ask Randall a question. I was going back to the modelling and things and around the Gore Bridge. Cannot we get and remove the big gravel banks below the Gore Bridge? Can we get some more sort of timelines that may? It's obviously could be quite a simple fix in flood protection, simple fix to get another 10 or 12% more water past Gore, basically. And just the impetus, just trying to work out, we know the data's there. I know it's probably got to be peer reviewed or whatever, but it seems to be something that could be done quite quickly, and I don't want us to be sitting on it. Just put it into a shelf and we'll get around to doing it. So I don't know if there is timelines, but can we get back to that sort of stuff?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair, we're currently getting 3 prices to remove those areas that are identified below the bridge there. Once we've got that, I guess the decision would be whether we try and secure co-funding for that project, or whether we go ahead as a rating district project.
Okay. Any further questions?
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
sorry. Yeah.
Is Randall on page 64, 65, 66, you've got some photos of work on the Waituna stream, and these look very good. And I just wonder, for a follow-up now, will these be fenced off? Will there be trees planted to provide shade, to complete the project?
Mr. Chair, I did actually get some of these questions. I haven't had time to probably fully do them justice, but just briefly. So in terms of fencing, I've stipulated to the landowners that the minimum is that they should be moving the fences back to allow the work in the first place. The riparian planting is a little bit more tricky, and some farmers are quite happy to do that. I can't make them do that. The riparian planting on the north side, we know how beneficial that is for biodiversity and shading. These are still legal drainage assets, so we still need access if we need to get in there. Hopefully that's reduced by some of the measures we're taking, but if we need to get in there, so that's why we recommend the south side of the drain, if you like, is not planted.
Understand that.
And the other question, Morris, is around the maintenance of the trees, and we spend a lot of money maintaining trees. So depending on the species composition, that kind of thing, we're careful what we plant and where, particularly in a small waterway. Otherwise, we get things falling over, coming out of form, leaning over, smashing, diverting, blocking, all that kind of thing. So, those are considerations as well.
But at a minimum, the stream is fenced anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. We're stipulating that, yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, David. So looking at the time, I might just wind this up if there's no further questions. So if we're all happy, I'd like someone to move that.
I'll move.
Thank you. Second, Jeremy, thank you very much. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That is carried. So we move on to the next extraordinary urgent business. See anyone throwing their hand up around the room there. So let's move on to the last item, publicly excluded business. So there must be a really good reason that we're doing this. Ellie, can you talk about this? Minutes. Yes. Okay. Extraordinary business. Confirmation of minutes. Okay.
That'll be the financially sensitive, I would think. So I'm happy to move that we move into public excluded.
All those in favour?
Aye.
So we've got
Turned off.
confirmation.
Do you still want the Zoom back?